We're going to look at the volume of a sphere and a cone. So this is the formula sheet that will be at the front of your exam paper. And if you look about halfway through, you're given these three formulas. And we're going to look specifically at the first two. So let's look at the sphere and the cone. Here are your formulas. So if we look at the first formula, the volume of a cone is given by V equals 1/3 times pi times r squared times height, or h. Now, the r represents the radius of the base of the cone, which is a circle. The h, like I said, represents the height of the cone. If we look at the sphere, the volume of the sphere is volume equals 4/3 times pi times r cubed now, where the r represents the radius of the sphere. So the radius again is from the center to the edge. Now these two formulas, you do not need to memorize them. They're given to you on the formula sheet of your exam. So let's look at our first example. To find the volume of the sphere with a radius of 3.2 meters. So let's take the formula. So the formula is 4/3 pi r cubed, and I'm going to substitute in the radius. So I'm going to replace r with 3.2. So I'm going to sub in my value of r. So you notice there is a multiplication sign between each of these because it's 4/3 times pi times my radius, which is now 3.2, because my radius on my circle or my sphere here is 3.2 cubed. I'll put that in my calculator and I will get 137.26 centimeters cubed. This is rounded to 2 decimal places. Let's look at another example. What is the volume of this hemisphere? So here I have my hemisphere. Hemisphere is half of a sphere. So we can think about that as we're calculating it. But let's start by calculating the volume of the full sphere. So we'll pretend it's a full sphere, and we're going to do 4/3 times pi times r cubed. And we're going to do the same thing and just replace or substitute in the value for r, which in this case is going to be 2.1 centimeters. So when I substitute in the value for r, I'm going to get 4/3 times pi times 2.1 cubed. I'll put that in my calculator, type it in, and I get 38.79 centimeters cubed. However, this is the volume of the full sphere. And we want a hemisphere, which is half. So what we need to do is divide it by 2, or half it. So if we half our volume, we're going to get 19.40 centimeters cubed, which again is rounded to 2 decimal places. Let's look at our final example, which is the volume of a cone. So here we have our image of a cone. If we want to find the volume, we start with our formula. So the volume of a cone is 1/3 pi r squared h. So the first thing we need to do is substitute in our values. We know that r is the radius of the base of the cone, which here is 3. H stands for the height. My height is 8 centimeters. I'm going to substitute those values in. So now this is going to be 1/3 times pi, starts off the same, times, instead of r squared, it's going to be 3, because the radius was 3, times by the height, which we know the height of the cone was 8. I'm going to put this in my calculator. Oh, no, before that, actually, I should mention that another way that you may see this is when we're multiplying by 1/3, that's the same thing as dividing the whole thing by 3. Okay? So these two forms here are the exact same thing. I just wanted to point that out, that they're the same. So you can put the first one in your calculator or the second one. You do not need to write this line right here if you already have the first one in. It's your choice. So I'm going to put this in my calculator. So I'll put the first one in my calculator. And I'm going to get 75.4 centimeters cubed. This is also 24 pi. You may see 24 pi in your calculator. You'll need to press the change button to round it to a certain decimal place. Okay, don't forget to press that change button. Now, the 24 pi is in terms of pi, and this is just in decimal format, and they are equivalent.